Happy Haunted Halloween. The Frankenstein federal government, jolted to directed energy nanobotted artificial life by the post 9/11 Patriot Act and the ghosts of deep state demonocracy, are once again weaving chemtrail webs of spook sabotage and fear mongering false flags via ghost grifters, high on adrenochrome and baby bodies. Hate us, but fear us, the Machiavellians moan. Watch us as we kill preborns and call it health. Rape children as we say it's undocumented immigration. Celebrate Satanism as artistic expressionism. Hate us much, but fear us more. But most of all, detest us most. We'll push, poke, prod, and provoke with our pedos, pimps, pushers, and prostitutes in your schools and on your screens until you react and revolt. Then we can finally and overtly do what we long for and do best. Repress, repress, repress. Rape born, orphan adopted, blessed bastard, ex-soldier, special agent spy, tyrant targeted, slave state slandered, turned whistleblower warrior, tyrant targeted, sabotage sharpened, corruption crucibled, redemption repurposed, maker missioned as chaplain, leader, teacher, truth teller to power, now America's intelligence officer. Leading with the last, forging with the first, standing alone together on our tear trail to rescue the Republic and restore America's godliness. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Hey, welcome everybody. Happy to be with you. See the chat's going pretty well there. No guest today, so we will be able to have good conversations, I hope. So what we're going to be covering today is a special. The government shutdown trick is actually a treat, and why November 1st snap riots will fail. FBI sanctions Israel mafia in the United States. Antifa pot rig gunfire splits the DOJ. It's an important issue. Trump to DOD resume nuclear tests. So a lot of big items on the plate today to get into. And I will see what we've got on. So I see John Guess, Face Kicker, a couple others, and the chats are starting to come up. So let me jump right into this special government shutdown trick as a treat. Really, it is good because nobody really cares except the government. Certainly the governed does not very much. So there's an anonymous donor who's going to pay the military. Those guys need to get paid. They're underpaid. You could die for that profession. Most of the government is overpaid. I can tell you from experience. Most of the DEA guys are sitting around in offices. Most of the DIA guys are sitting around in offices, not doing much. The deployed military, yeah, they are living hard. They need to get paid. But where this is really centered around, of course, is splitting agendas, and the Republicans what they want, the Democrats what they want. Lots of extra programs, and they want like another $1 trillion. It's all ridiculous. But has the world stopped that the government has now been shut down for nearly 30 days? No, nobody cares. It doesn't matter. It's good that it is shutting down. Trump may try and get rid of some more. Some federal judge are blocking him on that, but that could happen. But it really comes down to the SNAP thing. So roughly 42 Americans could lose food aid for the first time in history. It's the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP. It really should be called welfare, so that it is a little bit of shameful that you're on welfare, because you should want to get off welfare. And SNAP makes it sound like, oh, it's a SNAP. We'll just hang on there forever. Remember the old Western movies like, hey, me and Shane, we're going to pay for damages. We want to take responsibility. That's all gone today. Anyway, SNAP funding is coming up November 1st. They don't have the funds for it. Mike Johnson says that using emergency funds is illegal for that. Trump says he's going to cover it somehow, but it won't be right away. And so, I just heard from my good friend Michael Yon, who listened to my last cast with Bryce Eddy. from Turning Point, and he, like others, really appreciated my hard questions to him. I'll get back into that a little bit later. But he's talking about the food riots, and he is certainly an expert on that. But I don't think that is a big deal. I think of course, it's a trick that they're trying to draw this out. But it's actually a treat for us, and let me explain why that is. So Democrats claim they want to prevent a freeze in benefits. Republicans accuse Schumer and his caucus of blocking efforts to reopen the government and SNAP funding. Senate Democrats have now voted 12 times not to fund the food stamp program, again, known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which it should be going back to being called welfare, so that you want to get off welfare as opposed to calling it something cool like SNAP. Like it's a SNAP, but the well has run dry. So there will be no benefits issued on November 11th. Now Trump says he's going to make that happen somehow, but it won't happen right away. So the plan here, the trick here on the left, who traditionally tries and controls poor folk or lower class people, which are not necessarily trash people. There's a difference between trash people and lower class people who are poor. You can tell when you drive by homes. Poor people, their houses will be clean even if they're poor. Saw this all the time in Central America. Driving by school kids, super clean, their white shirts, even though they were living in dirt huts, as opposed to trash people who are just trash people. And where does that come from? Well, you look at their yards, they're trash. They don't care about anything. And of course, that's public housing because you don't own it, so you don't care for it. There's got to be ownership involved. But regardless, no benefits starting November 1st. So we're approaching an inflection point for Senate Democrats. They can continue to hold out for health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures. Or they can give up, and they don't look like they're going to give up. And so it's like, well, we've got hungry kids in America. So I've seen real hungry kids in Central and South America. I've dewormed tens of thousands of them. When I was in Epic Times, there was a photograph of me with a bunch of Nicaraguan kids. Newsflash: hungry kids are not fat. American kids are fat. So this is a non-starter story. Except for lifestyle poverty in Appalachia and in some of the Indian reservations, there is minimal hunger and poverty in America. The deep state, global cabal, dark economy, repopulation, the illegal infiltration aren't starving either. They get cards, they get phones. They're fattened up as well. And remember, I reported a while back that the United Nations is now reporting there are more fat kids in the world than there are underfed kids for the first time in history. That's because they're eating not food, but they're eating food products. So as America's self-designated intelligence officer, here is my prediction based upon my human intelligence, historical and intellectual knowledge, and intuitive wisdom analysis. Will there be November 1st SNAP riots? Yes. Are they authentic? No, of course not. These are going to be the same AstroTurf, Blood Tribe, Antifa stuff. Michael Young was talking about how they all wear Doc Martens. They all got the same shoes. Sometimes they change costumes, but they don't change shoes. That's an old police trick. Look at the shoes. So are they authentic? No. They will be manufactured by the left and by the government, as always. So will they be effective? No, they will not. The socio-communist Satanists will be unable to successfully shift scripts from slicing up womb babies and mutilating children's genitals and maintaining America's child trafficking global headquarters to all of a sudden, we've got to feed the hungry kids. It's just not in their DNA. They don't believe it, so no one else will either. It's like Hillary running for POTUS. It may have been in the script, but nobody bought it. So there is my prediction, and we will see if I am right or not. Pamoff, have you heard that in California, Newsom covers SNAP benefits and for illegals only? So if the federal government cuts benefits, illegals benefits will not be cut, but not illegals. Yes, that is true. Again, that is the whole point of depopulation. That is the killing off, the democide by the government of the elderly, of children in the womb, of mutilating children's genitals, because then they don't function. A lot of those operations go badly. Of course, then they kill themselves. Suicide is depopulation for repopulation. It's exactly what we did to the tribes. Kill off the tribes, kill off the buffalo, kill off the Indian ponies, and then repopulate to change the economy. It's the same thing. That's what they're doing. That's why they imported Mexican firemen, but they didn't want New York firemen as well. Can thank LBJ for all the people on welfare and SNAP. Yes, that is true. Any SNAP fraud like the Social Security paid 150-year-olds? Yeah, there's tons of SNAP fraud. In fact, I will get into it here as well. And a lot of it is being done by Israeli crime syndicates and mafia. High crop men paid protesters. Yes, definitely, for sure. But the next thing I want to move on to anyway is the FBI sanctions Israel mafia in the United States. This is a breaking story. I almost made this my title. But the FBI's growing list of domestic threats has mutated in recent years to include every conceivable affiliation of Americans across the political spectrum: right-wing violent extremists, left-wing violent extremists, black identity extremists, animal rights extremists. The current administration even added nihilistic violent extremists, those who believe in nothing, to the laundry list. Remember that a while back. The Biden administration, for its part, aided the exercise by vastly overstating the threat posed by Trump-aligned conservatives, which was ridiculous, of course. But neither Democrat nor Republican administrations have ever grandstanded about another significant threat group that the FBI secretly monitors on U.S. soil: Israeli-based organized crime syndicates. And of course, since it's the government, they got to have an abbreviation. That's IBOCS. So leaked FBI records and court filings detail widespread money laundering, taxpayer theft, and drug smuggling enterprises operated in the U.S. by Israeli citizens connected or belonging to Israeli crime groups. Despite the trickle of prosecutions over the past 25 years, the FBI has never publicly disclosed the fact that it has designated resources allocated to investigating these criminal organizations. But a 2020 FBI intelligence report from the BlueLeaks hack conducted by the hacker group Anonymous and archived by the nonprofit DDoS Secrets describes IBOCS operating in Nevada and Florida, embezzling money from the Paycheck Protection Program. So there you go. Who was asking about that? IBOCS have defrauded U.S. government relief programs. There you go again, and manipulated tax documents since at least 2015 to reduce tax liability and conceal money laundering activities, as well as access to companies and agents, which are necessary to process PPP loan applications, the report found. The report also lists IBOCS committing both disaster relief and tax fraud, and note that IBOCS are involved in money laundering, extortion, illegal gambling, fraud, narcotics trafficking in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Miami, and New York, according to FBI investigations. As far back as 2009, leaked State Department cables obtained by WikiLeaks detail one of the reasons why criminals belonging to or associated with Israeli crime families and syndicates have been able to operate inside America with ease. The State Department is not authorized to block their visas. I'll say that again. They're not authorized to block Israeli visas. The cables warn of the Israeli mafia taking on a growing role in American trade of ecstasy, and the loophole which prevents U.S. embassies from automatically denying Israeli crime travel documents. They know about them, and they can't block their visas. While the State Department has formalized powers in its Foreign Affairs Manual to restrict visas for Chinese triads, Japanese Yakuza, the Italian Mafia, the Hells Angels Bikers Gang, Outlaws, Banditos, Mongols, and 24 Latin American gangs, including Tren de Agua, Israeli organized online groups remain absent from more than a decade after the State Department cable first warned of the Israeli mafia loophole. Given the volume of trade and travel between the United States and Israel, it is not surprising that Israel organized crime has gained a foothold in America, one cable reads. The consular section has revoked several visas for those who have been convicted of crimes, but many organized crime figures have no prior criminal convictions and carry no visa ineligibilities. As a result, many hold valid non-immigrant visas to the United States and have traveled freely or attempted to travel for a variety of purposes. A former FBI special agent who worked on investigations involving IBOX told the American Conservative, "There is real Israeli organized crime in this country, and there is a formalized FBI program for investigating these groups. They look for the success of other criminals and then try to build a better model on those. The FBI doesn't stop crime, it manages crime. And in the case of Israel, it sanctions Israeli organized crime." He also said, once you move beyond that and your target becomes more sophisticated, they are presumed to be intelligence operatives and operatives of the Israeli government, and then that gets moved high side in the National Security Division. What he's saying there is if they're really successful organized crime operatives who are Israelis, they are assumed to be working for Israeli intelligence, and it goes over to the National Security Division, which means we're not going to touch them. This is Epstein. This is exactly what's going on. Epstein, a failed math professor, becomes this billion-dollar landowner, island owner, ranch owner, trafficking in children from all over the world, where all of these major world figures are showing up. How's that happen? Well, obviously, it is now clearly known, and I'll talk about that again later, that he was with State Department, he was CIA, was with Mossad. It's more of a question of who he was not with. But now we're seeing that organized crime in Israel operating in the United States is sanctioned by the FBI. A sentencing letter for an international narcotics smuggling case prosecuted in the Southern District of New York hints this reality, referencing IBOX designation in connection to an international ecstasy smuggling conspiracy. The defendant engaged in internationally laundering narcotics proceeds as part of an Israeli-based organized crime syndicate. In addition to his demonstrated ability to launder drug money across borders, he also possessed ample global connections in the narcotics trade and access to the narcotics themselves. This is the dark economy run by the deep state via the global cabal, which I've explained many times. A second former FBI agent pointed to the recent West Coast indictment of a suspected high-level member of an Israeli transnational organized crime group running an illegal poker game in Hollywood. It's no secret that politics inevitably shapes enforcement priorities, the agent said, explaining why the Bureau has never highlighted its IBOX enforcement. This has not been a popular thing to wave around in the press, which is why you see a steady stream of prosecutions related to Israeli crime figures without the same discussion of organization you might have with cartels or gangs. So politically unpopular is criticism of illegal activities by Israelis that repeated espionage efforts have been swept under the rug. And that's the other point is Israel conducts offensive espionage operations against us. They are not our greatest ally. Now, Navy report has said that are a special category ally because they conduct offensive espionage operations against us. But in 2019, Politico reported that intelligence officials suspected that Israel was behind the placement of cell phone surveillance devices planted around the White House and in other locations in Washington, D.C. According to the report, the Israelis were not sanctioned with a formal reprimand from the State Department. And of course, you can connote then from cell phones to pagers. And remember, Bibi given Trump the golden pager threat. So another potential reason for the lack of visibility on IBOX is the changing face of Israeli politics and the increasing proximity of organized crime figures in the ruling Likud party. 10 Likud officials chose to spend Sukkot, the recent Jewish holiday, with convicted mobster Rafi Haim Kedoshin this year. In the past, members of Israel's mafia families elected to parliament on the Likud line have attempted to use their positions to quash investigations in organized crime. So yet another reason to separate, cut off from Israel, but that does not happen. If they know about them and they're not doing anything, they are complicit. They are certainly complicit, High Crop Man, without a doubt. Mossad, country grid. Yes, certainly. That's very true. So, covered so far, special government shutdown trick is actually a treat, and the snap riots will fail. And now FBI sanctions Israeli mafia in the U.S. So remember, if you can, donate to the show at jeffreyprather.com. If you want to get my curated news stories, you can do that at patreon.com/jeffreyprather at the $5 level. If you want some special resources, go to the $15 level. If you want to train with me on video and become a personal student, do it at the $25 Point Patriot level. Or you can also instead, and I interact all the time. That's where I talk with patrons all the time. So if you want to have an extended conversation with me, if it's just once or twice email, jp@jeffreyprather.com, jeffreyprather. But if you want to talk a lot, like some people do, then get on Patreon, at least at the $5 level, and we will have discussions, and you can talk with other patrons there as well. Stay Brewed, see you there. Yeah, Stay Brewed coffee came early this month, which is great, because usually we kind of run low and run out, and then we are waiting anxiously for our new coffee, but it's in today, and it is the best. Go to teamamericacoffee.com for a 20% discount, or go to staybrewed.com, or you go to jeffreyprather.com/shop and get Prather Private Label, which is also made by Stay Brewed, and again, great patriotic Christian family that runs it there. So there's the jeffreyprather.locals.com, $9 a month, $90 a year. Also, go to sat123.com, sat123.com, and get your sat phones if you can afford to, or you go to galileo.com, get my sat text. I got to get on there. I'm way behind doing that. But moving on to Antifa pot raid, gunfire splits the DOJ. This is another important story. Pamoff, does Israel report some of the results of this spying to our own intelligence? No, Israel intelligence works for Israel. Now there is sharing at times, yes, but Israel is about Israel. You know, the Greater Israel plan again is for Christians and Muslims to destroy each other. And American falls. Bibi Netanyahu has said America's a golden calf. We're going to suck it dry to eventually destroy each other. That's part of the religious war that's going on. That's why you see now Antifa all of a sudden is deciding to dress up like Hamas. That's cue the religious war in America. And who's Antifa? Antifa is the anti-fascist movement out of Germany, but certainly backed and sponsored by the FBI, by the government, by the CIA, and by the leftists, socialists there as well. So this Antifa pot raid gunfire is a fail for them. In September 2025, there was a report. There was a raid recently in California of a couple of marijuana farms by the federal government. They don't say which feds, but of course that would be DEA, certainly. But what made this raid differently, because a lot of state laws allow marijuana, but it's still a Schedule I substance. And I know most of my arrests were marijuana. My biggest one being 10,000 pounds. My first big pop being 4,000 pounds. Uh, so anyway, during this raid, there were Antifa members who were blocking federal law enforcement vehicles. They were sticking Mexican flags into tires. So that's typical Antifa fifth generational warfare techniques that don't look like warfare. They don't look like they are combatants, but they are. But one of them fired a handgun at federal agents. So that's a big no, because that violates the fifth generation discipline protocol that lets Antifa pretend not to be an organized terror organization that is working with China, because a lot of Chinese are owning the marijuana farms. They're buying them up from the Hmong, the Montagnard people, and also from the cartels as well, because they're going to align with whoever is going to pay them. This is what you saw with the Sendero Luminoso, the Shining Path guerrillas, who were actually Maoist communist guerrillas in Peru back in the 90s in my day, who became drug traffickers. Why? Because the drug traffickers would pay them. So Antifa's effectiveness has been their professional discipline to conduct fifth generation warfare and not use conventional weaponry such as guns. They did in August 2020, but with the FBI and Peter Joe's DOJ covering, they could get away with an occasional slip. But this latest slip of a shooting at feds and military reveals desperation and, most importantly, an authentic DOJ counter drug effort by Homan that is in direct conflict with the FBI's continued covert cover-up operations, which is why the FBI targeted him. And so if you don't know, Homan, is the anti-immigration guy that is doing a good job. And so pay attention. I'm complimenting Trump here. I don't hate Trump. And when he does something right, and I'm complimenting his cartel wars, they are to a degree effective. And of course, the deportation efforts are very important in that regard. And Homan is a sincere, I think, government official on that. Well, how do I know he's sincere? Because the FBI is investigating him. That's why. So in September 2025, Homan was the subject of a now closed Department of Justice investigation that alleges he accepted $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents. So they set him up. In my day, this was called entrapment. But obviously, he was a threat to their ongoing operations. So the rule here is the enemy of my enemy is my ally. So if the FBI is coming after you, then you're our ally. So the FBI is coming after Homan, he's our ally. The FBI is coming after the Catholic Church, they're our ally. They're doing something right. So Homan, of course, is in the Department of Justice too. So this is interesting because this shows a split in the DOJ between Pam Bondi, who's going to do nothing, and Bongino and Patel, who are doing nothing except cover up for the deep state, and Homan, who's actually trying to do something. Now, he doesn't seem to be much of a political player. He's not probably going to become attorney general. But this is a good thing. And so I'm complimenting Homan. I'm complimenting Trump's efforts here. Although, he's not really, if he was really doing something, he'd get a real attorney general in there like Ken Paxton or somebody who would be aggressive. But nothing happened with this investigation of Homan, but they did go after him. But the important point here is that when Antifa starts using guns, they lose their protective mask of fifth generation protesters, which is why they are effective in the first place. So the cartels are realizing that they're going to get into real shootouts. And just before the show, there was an announcement that there is an order to establish quick reaction forces through the different National Guards. So now, again, I don't have a problem with that. That makes a lot of sense if you're going to wage wars on the cartels in the major distribution centers, which are the major metropolitan cities, which are run by Democrats, which are wrecks and havens for drug dealers anyway. You're actually going to have the military do it. I've said this for a long time. You can't put cops, whether they're Border Patrol or ICE, up against soldiers. And these are cartel soldiers. These are private armies. So I don't really have a problem with that. Could it be misused? Certainly it could. And if the FBI is in charge of it, then we're in real trouble. How if the military task forces, the military task forces, hopefully they will maintain their own chain of commands, then I am less worried about it. I've said this before. But regardless, the Justice Department on Wednesday announced federal charges against 10 anti-ICE protesters who ambushed the law enforcement officers during the raid on the California pot farms over the summer. And this was when federal agents descended on 2 marijuana farms in Ventura County. And, remember, I have sources that report to me there. According to reports, ICE protesters were tipped off to the raid after federal agents obtained a search warrant on the marijuana farm. That means somebody in the judge's office or in that building tipped them off. That means the warrant got signed, the search warrant got signed, and they are tipped off because they've paid somebody off in there. Nothing new about this. You see it in the movies all the time. So pink-haired protesters were ramming Mexican flags into the tires of U.S. military vehicles and smashing the flagpoles against the windows. But somebody fired off a gun. Protester was caught on video shooting at federal agents. Now, no one was shot, but ICE agents are facing a 700% increase in assaults. And of course, I've also reported that ICE agents are being relieved because they're very corrupt. I talked about that last week or last show. How Dave Petersmark was my longtime student. He was an ICE ASAC and OPR. And he betrayed me and consciously stole all of my students because that's just how they are. They're being replaced with Border Patrol. Border Patrol are lower paid, much hard working guys out there on the front lines. Worked with a lot of them. Not that there isn't corruption there as well, but a lot less of it. So this is a good sign again. So for those of you who think I'm never saying anything good about Trump or never anything good about what's going on, this is a good sign that DOJ is making a dent in the FBI cover-up and the Pam Bondi cover-up via Homan and ICE. And this is showing that Antifa is becoming desperate and ineffective because they are resulting in open gunfire. And of course, they will lose those fights. So if you're talking about who's going to win fights between cartel soldiers and the military is going to win those fights without a doubt. They just have to be unleashed to do it. Will there be civilian casualties? Yes, there are always civilian casualties. But the military will win those fights. The cartel forces are substantial, but they are nothing compared to the National Guard by any means. So, what is your view on what Anna Paulina Luna said about aliens? I don't know what Anna Paulina said about aliens, but if you want to ask me if I believe in aliens and angels, the answer is yes. You say potato, I say potato. Trans-dimensional beings, because if you're going to transcend space, time, it's really not time and space, it's space-time. The distances are so vast that you have to have some kind of trans-dimensional mechanism like a warp drive or a wormhole or a portal. That's why you see that all the time in science fiction. And I'm a big science fiction fan. And so do I believe in aliens and angels? I believe in trans-dimensional beings. Yes, without a doubt. So I hope that answers your question. Glad to have a discussion today. And glad to see that we're having plenty of interaction. Also, I don't see anybody on X asking anything, but you are welcome to do so as well. Remember to go to mehanmd.com for a discount. That's my doctor. Terry Lakin would not, Dr. Meehan's passed on, but Colonel Terry Lakin's taken over the practice. He would not recognize Obama's commander-in-chief because of the birth certificate, went to Leavenworth for it. Quite a hero in my regard, and a great medical doctor who uses alternative medicines as well. Earl Jackson, the Archons. I don't know what that means. You'll have to educate me on that. For your prescription medicines, you can go to jeffreyprather.com/Jase, Jase. and you'll do an interview with them. Then you get your prescription medicines. My wife keeps all of those on hand for us all the time. Pam Off at our last council meeting, my mayor asked if any ICE activity went on during the last 2 weeks in our city. Since there was none, he said, let's keep it that way. How do we stand up against that? You can call ICE. I'm really familiar with this. If you see drug trafficking or illegal activity going in, there's always tip lines that you can call, and you can call anonymously as well. Don't sign up as an informant. Informants are bad guys working off beefs for the most part, but you can certainly call something in. And generally speaking, that will work. I am very much against any federal task force, because once the deputy sheriffs and police are cross-deputized, they are under, and they get the federal money, they're also on the federal teat. Like if I'd have to qualify all of them to federal shooting standards, if they were cross-deputized as DEA agents, they got a silver badge instead of a gold badge, but they had to be able to shoot from the 50-yard line like we do, all of that kind of stuff. But again, I don't recommend any task forces, but if you want to get ICE in there, and the reason for that is because under federal law, only ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, and Border Patrol, Customs and Border Protection, CPBA, Customs and Border Protection, CBP, have federal authority to arrest illegal aliens. I live down there on the border in Sonoyta, and I'd see illegals, walking the highway, and I could not arrest them, even though I was a federal agent, because I operated under Title 21 USC 841A1, possession with intent to distribute. I could not arrest them. If there was a Border Patrol member there, I could assist them. And I took over a lot of arrests, countless Border Patrol referral cases, hundreds, thousands, maybe, when the illegals had dope on them, cocaine or marijuana. But that's why you got to call ICE there, if that makes sense. There's a systemic turnover of undesirables within these agencies. That is good. You need to keep up the pace on deportations too. Yes. So I reported on this, is in all the major cities, the ICE guys, the ICE SACs and ASACs are going out. That's a great thing. They're very corrupt. I already talked about that, of how corrupt they are as well. So getting onto corruption, I'm glad we're having such a dialogue today. That's really good. Candace Owens covered this, and John Leake in his Substack covered this, is why did Michael McCoy, was he on a call when Charlie Kirk got shot? So it's clear that this is a controlled operation, that this is not the lone gunman that Pathetic Patel and Blathering Bongino are talking about. The guy probably had nothing to do with it. The weapon doesn't fit. The ammunition doesn't fit. The AI video doesn't fit. So that's really important to understand. So Michael McCoy is Charlie Kirk's chief of staff, and right after Charlie gets shot, he doesn't react. He puts his phone up to his ear and starts talking. John Leake notes this on his Substack. Candace Owens shows all the clips of this. And so this really, Charlie Kirk's murder and assassination was to stop his legacy, his movement of what was going on. And now they are modifying it. And so looks like Michael McCoy is in on it. Is that wild speculation? No. I can tell you from having been betrayed over and over, just like I was with David Petersmark. He was my senior student. Before that, I was betrayed in warrior school again, by senior student, can't think of his name right now, but he was NSA. Um, so Judas was, inside Yeshua's circle. So it's very common for the betrayal to happen inside. It's just like if there is a family member murdered or a child molested or something, it's usually someone inside the family. So false flags are not the exception; they are the norm. I'm quoting my friend Michael Yon here as well. And everybody is usually in on it except the mark. Because false flags may be difficult for people who are not familiar with covert operations to grasp. So go watch the movie The Sting with Paul Newman and Robert Redford. They put up this elaborate gambling establishment just to go after the one high roller mark. Everybody else is in on the sting except the mark. Just like with Ashley Babbitt's murder and assassination, everybody around her is in on it except her. Just like Brian Terry's assassination. Everybody was in on it except the Bortak guys. So is McCoy in on it? Likely he is. And that is not unusual at all. So as Charlie Kirk gets shot before he even falls down, he puts the phone up to his ear. He's already on the phone with somebody, and he walks away. He doesn't react to what has happened to Charlie. He walks away as if he knew it was going to happen. He doesn't dial any numbers, so he was already on the line. And so it's just like a business call. It's like a confirmation. So that would be in a military situation, somebody downrange like a JTAC or a CCT guy would be calling in the strike and then confirming that the strike had hit. And of course, you're familiar with that because I've talked about John Chapman's heroism a lot. And then, of course, we see him go off, and Candace Owens has talked about how he's then doing this selfie. And then his dad is a pastor and says that he called Erica Kirk first. But, why would he call Erica Kirk first? Because he didn't know anything to tell her yet. I mean, the natural reaction if somebody you're close to is run up and try and help them. And then next thing is call 911, not call the wife. You don't want to call the wife until you have something to say. And then also calling his dad. And his dad saying, oh, well, yeah, he was covered in blood and, he was real upset and he couldn't remember who he called. His dad's a pastor. And so, again, so many of these, the majority of these Christmonger pastors, not pastures, pastors are phonies. Remember, I had Pastor Arthur Pawlowski on years back, and who called out the Canadian police as Nazis for trying to shut him down during the COVID pandemic. And I said, well, Pastor, what about all these other pastors who are like, yeah, we'll do a service with mask, and then we'll do a service with not, and we'll do it, and we'll just go along with everything, and we'll shut down while the strip clubs and the bars remain open. He goes, they're fakes. 95% of them are fakes. And I agree with him. That's totally true. And so that's something you should look at. If your church and pastor went along with the COVID stuff, probably time to find a new church. If they won't talk about political issues, Yeshua was executed for political speech, time to find a new church. And by the way, you can join my chaplaincy. I'm actually doing the first service of the month and giving the sermon this Sunday, christchaplaincy.com. Christchaplaincy.com. We're live on Meta. We're also on the website live, christchaplaincy.com, as are all our old services and sermons as well. And we're also on GoTo, where you can actually talk to us because we'd like to have interaction. And our services are quite different. If you don't like conventional services, I get it. Neither do I. So you can take a look at ours. They are quite different from everything else. Remember to go to visit heavensharvest.com, heavensharvest.com, code JP15, code JP15, heavenharvest.com for emergency survival food and non-GMO food. Good stuff. Pawlowski, Sabbath keeper like Charlie. I don't know what that means, but we do a modified Shabbat, just as Yeshua did as well. But it certainly looks like McCoy was in on it, and many others were as well. And again, I say that it's kind of like running a big con. If you don't understand what a false flag is, then go watch the Sting again, and it'll begin to make sense. Again, this guy's dad, Pastor McCoy, said his son was covered in blood when he called. Well, how would he know that unless he was doing a video or something? And why would he walk away? And so the narrative is falling apart. But what's really happening here is, again, this is the paid off Israeli supporters destroying Charlie's message and Charlie's legacy. And there's nothing new about this. This is exactly why Yeshua was executed, to destroy the message. Very common. So moving on from that, Trump is telling the DOD to resume nuclear weapons testing. This is very significant. This is a strategic decision that definitely needs to be reported. And on Wednesday, President Trump ordered the U.S. Department of War to immediately start testing U.S. nuclear weapons just ahead of his meeting with President Xi. And this is, again, my lane. Actually, when I was getting my master's degree in international relations, I did it on the START Treaty. Very familiar with all of this stuff. This is of course, this is a negotiating tactic to negotiate from strength. And you can't just turn on something like that. But to announce it looks like what I have said before is Trump's private plan for legacy is to defeat communism in China, just as Reagan defeated communism in Russia. Because if you think about it, he's rich, got a beautiful wife, president for the second time. What could be really legacy is to destroy communism in China, watch it collapse. Is it doable? It certainly is. Xi is hanging on, in my estimation. China has lots of difficulties. I think my friend Mike Adams disagrees with me, but it's not that China will go away. China is an ancient country, just like Russia, unlike America, that is going to last. But just like Russia, communism was relatively new and it doesn't work. Everybody knows that. And it will fail, and communism will fail in China. The question is, will it fail under Trump's watch? But this looks like the push to modernize the military, begin nuclear testing again. Does it raise the specter of nuclear war? A little bit, but I'm not worried about that. A lot of people talk about that. Mutually assured destruction doctrine, MAD, has worked very well. It has never happened. There may have been some nuclear torpedoes, some small atomic demolition munitions. That's actually in my book here, Chase. And by the way, I still have some copies of my 2 books. If you want to get those, help@jeffreyprather.com. Write me there. But nuclear warfare on a large scale is really irrelevant today. Genetic warfare on a detailed scale is what has replaced it. So we'll see if he moves forward with this. We were reducing our stockpile. The United States still has more nuclear weapons than any other country, but we will see where that goes, but it's certainly something that people need to be made aware of. Assures Xi that socialism with Chinese characters is more like well-managed capital. Oh, it's yeah, state-managed capitalism. Yes, that's true, but there's a big, and that is from Mark Palermo. Yes, that's a big problem, though, Mark, is because the Chinese populace wants to become middle class. They've been working so hard for so long, and they're producing everything cheaper than can be produced anywhere else. But to maintain that, the Chinese cannot let them become middle class. To stop that middle class, though, becomes the problem. And that's why there are lots of factory walkouts and riots happening now. And that is not really sustainable. Who is this? Whoop. The Russian missile is a flop anyway. The amount of radiation would spew through the air would make it easy to track. Okay. I guess that's Earl Jackson. I'm trying to see who that is. But it's already on the way. And I'm not so sure about that. But there are nuclear nest units that can track radioactivity. Also very important to talk about more confirmation that Epstein was working for the government. Of course, this is the hill I think we need to be able to die on, that we cannot accept this. We cannot accept what Trump has said, or Patel, or Bongino. But it is now, there is even now more evidence that Epstein was working not just with Mossad, but with the US government, CIA, and huge military contractor DynCorp to traffic children in a massive blackmailing operation. So FAA records and Epstein's pilot flight manifest indicate that Epstein's Bell helicopter used the same tail number of November 474 Alpha Whiskey. This was the same tail number used until 2006 by State Department contractor DynCorp for counterinsurgency operations in Latin America. And this kind of goes back to my time because I've been on State Department helicopters in the 90s in DEA Operation Snowcap. The congruence of Epstein's Bell N474AW and DynCorp's Bronco N474AW is noteworthy. In 2002, the year Epstein's aircraft fleet stands accused of flying underage teen girls, some between the ages of 12 and 15, coincides with DynCorp's trafficking underage females between the ages of 12 and 15 from Kosovo and Bosnia in the Balkans. Because, again, there was child trafficking going on there, just like there's child trafficking going in with Ukraine and the Nazis there. The sex trafficking network has connections to the CIA and DynCorp. Special report on occurrences, foreign and domestic, identified Epstein's suspected trafficking vehicle, a small plane, which had the same tail number as a State Department Bronco used under contract by DynCorp. This is the same plane that was involved in DynCorp's sex trafficking of minors in the Balkans. And DynCorp is a national security cutout. And, you know, I'm very familiar with this. And used to do in Tucson, Raytheon's police law enforcement security training, which is another one of those. Armed DynCorp employees constitute the core of the police force in Bosnia. DynCorp troops protect Afghan President Hamid Karzai, protected him. DynCorp manages the border post between the U.S. and Mexico. DynCorp inventories everything seized by the Justice Department's asset forfeiture program, runs the Naval Air Warfare Center at Patuxent River, Maryland, and is producing smallpox and anthrax vaccines as well. So that is very telling as well, that is obvious, and that's why it is so interwoven with the government that they will not reveal it, and they must, and they should. Again, what am I asking for there? I'm asking for a clear confession that the government did wrong, and a a repentance. We did wrong and we will not do it again, following Yeshua's protocols. And this is what happened with Germany, Nazi Germany, for example, is, hey, we did wrong and we will not do it again. But there has never been this. And so until there is this, there is no assurance that the same people who weren't trafficking children under Pedo Joe won't go back to trafficking children under whoever comes in next. It's just because they're just doing as they're told, as opposed to having moral standards. So I've talked about that many times. Our national ethics are defined by our moral standards, which I say American exceptionalism is based upon the 10 Mosaic, 2 Christic, and 2 indigenous commandments. Hi, Cropman, government is covering their own ass. Yes. Somebody the other day was upset with me about Trump, saying I was picking on Trump or something, or I don't know whether it was sarcasm or not. But I can talk about that today if you get back on. I don't remember who that was, whether that was Hi Cropman or somebody else. But President Trump says that South Korea has agreed to pay the USA $350 billion for lowering of the tariffs charged against them by the United States. Trump wrote Wednesday in a post on Truth Social. Additionally, they have agreed to buy our oil and gas in vast quantities and investments into our country by wealthy South Korean companies and businessmen will exceed $600 billion. Trump noted that he is helping South Korea protect itself from North Korea and its ally and China. There we go yet again. And South Korea's president showed Trump a never surrender shirt with the famous 47 mugshot on it. So again, pay attention. All of you guys who think I hate Trump all the time, I'm saying something good about Trump, complimenting his efforts here. While again, I think his long-term legacy goal, though, is to collapse communism in China. And that continues to do that as well. Self-reflection correction, not the core skill. It ought to be a big G. Yeah, isn't that the truth? Wasn't you, Hi Cropman says. Somebody else, maybe give me some of that, but I don't think he's on there today. But anyway, and he's also going to allow South Korea to build nuclear-powered submarines as opposed to diesel ones, and that is to better track Chinese submarines and North Korea submarines. North Korea submarines aren't really much of a worry, but Chinese submarines are, and it would be great to have nuclear-powered South Korean submarines that could, because they're so much closer. Because if you don't know, the nuclear arsenal is composed of submarines, of land-based missiles, and then of truck and train missiles. The truck and train move around. Those truckers obviously have rifles. The missiles in their silos, are highly guarded. But the most surreptitious of the strategic nuclear triad are the submarines, because they can evade capture. We used to have the most quiet submarines. The Clintons gave away a lot of our quiet technology to the Chinese, but so Russia, China, and America naval forces track each other's submarines because of the nuclear weapons all the time. They're always trying to know where they are at all times. So this would actually be a good benefit for us. So looks like a good idea as far as I am concerned. So that is some good news there as well. Tana texts, Trump cants to praise economy, but it is nothing to brag about by far. Not sure what you're trying to say there. Try and say it there. And blood sport doesn't allow much time for it. Not sure what that means either. I've met that guy who claims to do the blood sport thing. Not impressive as a martial artist, I'll tell you. Also wanted to note that Bondi, so the House has noted that the auto pen signatures are invalid. That doesn't mean anything, but they have sent it over to the Department of Justice, and they said, we've gift wrapped this. This is an easy one. Uh, it is an easy one. It should be done. Will it be done? It doesn't look like it, because the story reads Bondi probes, not investigates, Biden auto pen. And so when they don't want to say we're investigating, they say probe. There is no probe. There's investigations or there are not investigations, but there's no like, I never was like, hey, Prather, open a probe. You either open an investigative case or you don't open an investigative case. You know, that's it. You can be taking calls from informants and stuff, but you got to have them, you know, well, you don't have to have them on the books. You know, they can just be volunteer. But anyway, this does not bode well, is my point here, from the way Bondi is approaching it. And again, I'm sure Bondi is approaching it like this because Trump wants her to approach it like this. Bondi is a joke. Yes, but again, she is Trump's joke. She is doing, I think, what Trump wants. Now, of course, AG is supposed to be independent, but you know that is unlikely. Yeah, it's like saying we'll look into it. Yes, exactly. Also wanted to cover the merger between chip titan NVIDIA and data mining powerhouse Palantir. Represents more than a global business partnership. It is a great leap forward for the global surveillance architecture. And this is very concerning. This, along with the Real ID that's going on, which is, of course, unconstitutional, and you shouldn't go along with it. If you need to travel by air, you can just use your passport. That's what we do. And it should not be where you get the white star on the yellow background on your driver's license. I've talked about this, but that's part of the complete global surveillance architecture that is coming, a digital nervous system capable of tracking, predicting, and influencing nearly every aspect of modern life. The two companies are collaborating to create an integrated technology stack for operational AI. And of course, again, AI is wrong a lot of the time. It has its own prejudices built in. I've talked about that. It is a fast parrot, that's all. But if you want to control reality, it's a great propaganda tool, and that's what they want to do here. Remember, Palantir originally was funded by the CIA's venture arm, In-Q-Tel. It built its empire on data fusion. Its software underpins intelligence gathering for the Pentagon, the NSA, and numerous law enforcement agencies worldwide. So listen to that again. The Pentagon, the military, the NSA, which is the SIGINT big dog, and the big dog in the intelligence world, and numerous law enforcement agencies worldwide. What does that mean? That means those databases are all tied in. You see all the movies now too, where they say, hey, we want to see all the surveillance cameras. We want to click in. So that should not be. But of course, you know, I broke from open sources, not revealing anything classified, how DEA's Special Operations Group has an office where all the federal law enforcement guys sit, and on the other side of the room there, all of the intelligence guys sit, and they collect OCONUS, outside continental United States signals intelligence, and pass it to the federal law enforcement and say, now develop your own PC, probable cause. That's fruit of the poisonous tree. It happens all the time now. It shouldn't be happening, but it does. And when you were doing a Title III wiretap, which you don't actually tap wires anymore, you actually used to have to, in my day, minimize. That is, if I listened in and they weren't talking about dope, then for their privacy, I could not continue to listen in. I think minimization is gone out of the window as well there. Only AI that's correct is Mike Adams. Yes, and I'm proud to say that all Prather points are part of that. And Mike is using, with my permission, which he asked for, use all of my shows to kind of correct the AI culture that is emerging there. So again, turning the claymore there as well. But anyway, Palantir's AI platform, AIP, which also serves intelligence agencies and major corporations, will now be supercharged by NVIDIA's GPU accelerated computing programs that interpret, prioritize, and executive actions based on massive data feeds. This partnership effectively creates a central nervous system of what global planners call integrated AI infrastructure. It's the foundation for a so-called smart world, smart cities, smart grids, smart transportation, even smart governments. Each node in that system feeds data into Palantir's ontology, where it's processed by NVIDIA's AI computing engines. But of course, again, the AI has its flaws, its viewpoints. Those are those of their programmer. The rhetoric from both companies is revealing. NVIDIA's Jensen Huang says it will turn enterprise data into decision intelligence. Carp added that will deliver asymmetric value to customers. The language is strategic. Decision intelligence implies predictive authority, while asymmetric implies it's no coincidence that they are deeply tied to government and corporate elites in driving the World Economic Forum. So this is a consolidation of power through digital governance. It's not just about faster chips and smarter software. It's about control. The fusion of Palantir's data lattice and NVIDIA's computational engine gives the globalist technocracy an unprecedented upgrade, the ability to see, know, eventually decide more than any other elected official. Palantir and NVIDIA may call it operational AI. Others might call it the digital skeleton for the beast system. And so that is very concerning as well. So in sum, those are the major issues for this Halloween. Is the government shutdown trick is a treat. The November 1 snap riots will come, but they will fail. The sanctions, the FBI sanctions Israeli mafia in the U.S. The Antifa pot raid, gunfire splits the DOJ into a actual section under Homan that's trying to do good, and FBI that's still trying to cover up everything. And Trump says the DOD is to resume nuclear tests. So not going over too much here, but I thought I'd share. So I get lots of email, and if it's serious, I try and respond to it. And I've talked about this guy before, and this is Lester Shavitz, who doesn't like my viewpoint on Israel. And I'm not going to read you the entire thing because there's like 25 pages. But he's gotten more sophisticated in his responses, and he's always very polite. And I'll just read you my response for brevity, because his is very lengthy and extensive. Lester, delighted to hear back. Enjoy our discussions. Good joke. He told me a joke about Robinson Crusoe. Read that aloud to my wife, who was raised Jewish, by the way. I concede that the Messiah that Yeshua is was not imagined by rabbis, but as creatures of the Creator in the creation, God is never what we expect. So it follows that neither would be the Messiah be. We agree to disagree here. In fact, Yeshua fulfills all the Torah prophecies, and I list about 15 of the primary ones, which I won't go into here as well. And then I say, I have never said Judaism is illegitimate. There are people who say that. I have not said that. You're quite wrong here, quite the opposite. Judaism's fundamental legitimacy, which I previously elaborated in the Constitution, form the basis for the Constitution and for Christ's 2 commandments out of Deuteronomy and Numbers. And I said, good for you finding the Synoptic Gospels vineyard parable, which I was quoting. Again, since Yeshua says the Father and I are one, God did renounce the Hebrews. So here too, we disagree, because he's saying, until I hear God renounce, I'm like, well, that's that we're gonna have to disagree there. I said, you also missed the mark when you say that I call for the abolition of the nation of Israel. Never said that, never will. You also never hear me slander Jews or Judaism, as so many of my colleagues on the right like to do. Finally, I'm impressed with your grasp of history and civilization. Happy to see we agree on so many other points, from October 7th to Bibi, where he was agreeing with me that October 7th was a stand down, that Bibi is terrible. I also have no issue with your definition of Zionism as patriotism is fine. Unfortunately, that is not how Zionism has been employed today on the international stage. Since you opened with a good Jewish joke, I'll close with a Catholic one. When Jesus saves the adulterous woman in John 7:53 and 8:11 and says, he who was without sin cast the first stone, and they all drop their rocks. A moment later, a chunk of concrete sails in from the back of the crowd and smacks her in the head. Jesus peers back over the crowd to see who threw, shakes his head and says, Mom. Good Catholic joke there as well. So I will leave it at that, but appreciate the dialogue. Is there a workaround? Is there a biometric workaround to the mark of the beast problem? The workaround is really to have an ethical standard. The problem is that we no longer have national ethics. And that is in a large part due to the government separating itself out from its moral base. So national ethics come from personal morals. So the founders of America were Christian. Thomas Jefferson signed his letters, yours in Christ. George Washington hit his knees, depending on divine providence. Benjamin Franklin said, or John Adams said, we'll only have a republic if we have a virtuous populace. Our virtues come from our morals. So again, I say the morals are the 10 Mosaic, the 2 Christic, the 2 indigenous. Those can't be separated out. The first Bible was published by Congress for use in schools. This has been misinterpreted by the Supreme Court for a long time. Separation of church and state. That's never what it was supposed to be. Clearly, that's not what the founders wanted to be. It was not to have a state religion, as the Church of England had a state religion, and the king was head of the church. That's what they didn't want to have. We do have a state religion. It's called scientism or human secularism, where you've got to believe in evolution. You've got to believe in Darwinism. You've got to believe whatever they are spieling this week, even though it doesn't work. So the answer is to come back to a moral, ethical framework, and then you can guide what you're doing. But so much of what they're doing, just like intravenous insemination, they were trying to mock God. So scientists love to talk about that they are atheists and there is no God, even though they can't address a first cause or uncaused cause. Or they want to compare evolution with creationism, which is not the same thing at all. They can't answer why there is an ordered system. They can't understand what energy is. So that's what would be required for a biometric workaround that is sourcing it as opposed to symptoming it. If they could read DNA non-invasively, that may, you mean without drawing it, that may come. We do not know. We shall see. But good discussion today. If you are celebrating, Halloween, I encourage you to celebrate that from a spirit of life and freedom, because God says life and freedom are good, not death and slavery. There is to not be obsessed with the zombies and the vampires and the evil and the fear porn that is everywhere. Nothing wrong with reading a classic like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Dracula was a real person, impaled a lot of people. Worshipping the dead is against scripture. But anyway, remember the cabal's conundrum is corruption. The reset is rampant, but their corruption breeds incompetence. Institutions to run require integrity. Individuals to man them, intestinal fortitude. Fortitude cannot be faked. The faker's emotionality ensnares them. Martyrdom overcomes murder. Self-sacrifice beats selfishness. Their immaturity infects them. Goliath's glare missed David's handheld trebuchet. Wellington withdrew till Bonaparte blundered at Waterloo. Euston hit when Santa Anna was strung out. The reset rots the cabal corpse from within. They drop dead daily at news desks and weekly fall on football fields. Our strategy is resistance and resiliency. Our tactics, grit and guts. Our war is wit, wile, will, and waiting. Until.